let's now move on to our grammarian, Pat Caslin. Pat, if
Good
you
afternoon,
could.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow members, and very welcome guests. The role of the grammarian is to choose a word of the day, or a phrase of the day, or a thought of the day around grammar, and I'm a bit of a grammar nut. So I'm going to tell you what that is in a moment, and also to watch out for good use of language and pauses or clutch words or double clutches and other impediments to the normal flow of good speech. Our word of the day today is it's two words actually, and it's two words that get commonly mixed up and it drives me nuts personally. And it's the concept of fewer or less. When do you use the word fewer and when do you use the word less? And very often I hear people saying there were less people here than last week. And that drives me mad because use the word fewer if you can count a number, and use the word less if you can't count. So there were fewer people, but there was less of a crowd. There were fewer grains, but there was less salt. So if you can count the number, it's fewer. And if you can't count the number, it's less, except in one case, time. So you don't say there were less hours. You don't say there were fewer hours in the day. You would say there's less hours in the day because time is a continuum. It's a block. So except in the case of time, if there's a number, it's fewer. And if you can't count it, it's less. I hope that's clear. I really want to hear that you use the word fewer when you're referring to numbers rather than the word less, because it is bad grammar. And we want to speak well, don't we? And make ourselves clear and not grate on those grammar nuts like me who go mad when we hear bad grammar. Fewer or less. Madam Toastmaster.
Oh, word of the day, Pat Caslin.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Madam General Evaluator. Well, we had some wonderful use of the word of the day today. We had Vincent use it. I had David Ryan said a much fewer and a few. I had Paul say a little less, which was superb. And Scott, I have to tell you, you got it right in the first half, you got it wrong in the second half, because the other half that I didn't mention of fewer is that you said a fewer than normal amount. But if you're talking an amount it's a fewer than normal number, because they're measurable. The number is the equivalent in counting as to what fewer is. So it's a fewer than normal number or a bigger amount. Yeah, if you can't count it. So there you go. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to demonstrate that subtlety in the use of fewer or less and number and amount. I should have said that at the beginning. Now, we had some wonderful language today. God, I loved it. I love the word kairos because my son had done a retreat about 15 years ago in his school, in a play, and it was called Kairos, but I didn't know what that name meant. So that was wonderful, a message whose time has come. And we heard a lot of those today, particularly from Sharon. Sharon, the language was wonderful. Your opening, I can do without God in my life. I thought, wow, that's fantastic. Expressive art therapy. Art is a testimony to the human condition. Wonderful. I do wonder, though, whether committed suicide is the right term. Died by suicide, I think, is a better term, just as a thought, because it senses committed as a sense of guilt about it or something. But the David said, epitomized by Dr. King. What a wonderful word. And you only get one chance to make a first impression. I like that expression. But there are a couple of cliches in there, David. Up against the wall, raise your game. You know, we kind of know those ones. Vincent, a haven of happiness in the sea of faces. Superb. Paul, existentialism in describing Kate's topics. I thought, yeah, how fabulous was that? Sandra, a practice of futility, describing learning. Wonderful. Then Harold, have a purpose and go towards that purpose. What great advice for life. Carol, you have to work for it. And boy, did you say that a number of times, Carol, but you're absolutely right. Nothing worth having in life is worth having unless you're prepared to work for it. John, banal. What a nice word, banal voice. And we don't hear lovely words like that. And Mary, I love the use of the word phenomenal. And Scott, solid beginning, solid middle, solid end. wonderful use of alliterative use of the word solid and of anaphora as well, which is triads with the repeated word at the beginning of the phrase rather than epistrophe where the repeated word is at the end of the phrase. That's your grammar lesson for today. Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator.
Okay, thank you, Pat Caslin. Yes, indeed. So now it's time. Boy, we're running out of time. It looks like it's what, 10 something?
10:19.
I just thought a little Rolling Stones might be good. Time is actually not on our side, and I'm so happy because this is my time to give the General Evaluators report. I want to say that our meeting excelled in so many phenomenal ways. We started on time, and we had James to remind our president that it was not 8:59, but it was 9 o'clock and ready to begin. And so James Scott Oliver started us on time. And we had a brilliantly conducted, that was entertaining as well, hilarious, election of officers by James Scott Oliver. And that was said by our guest, Nicole Howerton, as well as by our own president in the chat, that they really had never seen such an imaginative and hilarious officer election done. So there was no voter fraud here. We're happy for that. All roles were filled in advance, and only a brief replacement of our Cape Meme was done by Paul for table topics. Thank you, Paul. Then we moved into our prepared speeches, which ranged, I thought, from emotional and heartfelt by Sharon to Vincent's lion killing a goat to Dave Ryan's instructions to us on what being a great leader is. Our speech evaluators, they gave impactful and effective, not infective, but effective feedback to our speakers. Thank you, John, Mary, and Vicki. Table topics, as I mentioned, was delivered in a really imaginative and creative way. Thank you again, Paul, for that. Our word of the day, Pat, I tell you, I was not able to use that word of the day because I was so busy trying to refresh myself on what a general evaluator does. I still don't know the difference between the two. I'll have to refresh myself on that again. However, I would suggest, Pat, next time that we put the word of the day in the chat so that we can remind ourselves of it and the definition of it. Overall, I would say that there were some areas for improvement. First of all, I think that we should throw John and Murial out for making this meeting too funny. And we should tell them to go on tour with their sappy humor. Make Vincent stop showing all of that great background. You're making us jealous. We have to look at this for a whole hour and a half. No, seriously. I said already we could put the word of the day in the chat. I, like John, kind of lost myself because I was busy taking notes. I would suggest that there be a general evaluator and a co-general evaluator. So when the general evaluator is slacking off and not able to perform their duties, someone else is able to step right up and do the job right. Other than that, that's all I have to add, and it's 9:23, and I don't want to play the Rolling Stones again, so time is not on my side. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.